The year is ending, and we were thinking about games that had us quite agitated when we played them, doubling up as intense horror experiences despite not officially being part of that genre. From creepy locations, terrifying monstrosities, some truly frightening stories, and thematic integrations, these titles can have you at the edge of your seat while you play them, or have specific moments that they present haunt you long after you've wrapped up playing for the day. We put together a list of some of the most memorable experiences we've had within that framework. Some of them really turn things up a notch, and you may want to keep a light on if you decide to dive in. So let's get started. Elden Ring. Despite a more visually bright world in the lands between, Elden Ring squirrels away poignant, truly frightening tales in the backgrounds of its dungeons, or in plain sight for the tarnished to uncover. The lore behind those in pots and any of Shadow of the Erdtree's dungeons showcase a side to Queen Marika that makes her actions all the more terrifying to think about, while other instances of her kingdom's trysts with monsters manifest in frightening ways. Grotesque monstrosities accost you, sometimes in the most beautiful places, while the darkest corners of the lands between, or the Shadow Tree's cursed landscape, hide melancholy secrets and enemies deadly enough to take out even the best builds. Bloodborne players might be all too familiar with that one and the madness gauge. And of course, there's Mog's haunting story to uncover for those of you who are interested in some gruesome lore that has some far-reaching implications spread across the story.
Dearest Mikola, you must abide alone a while.
Demon's Souls Remake. One of the best things Bluepoint Studios did with the Demon's Souls remake was to recreate its environments just as they were set up in the original game, while adding a layer of realism to its oppressive levels and its many threats. Each boss, although familiar, was now all the more terrifying, their new character models lending them an additional layer of imposing dread. That's also true for many of the game's grunt enemies as well, and the entire experience was definitely worth experiencing all of the tension between boss runs that come with it all over again. Lies of P. One of the things that Lies of P does so well is weave in its horror component into its narrative in subtle ways, with it being an important part of the background that underlines the bizarre puppet frenzy in its aftermath. We're not going to forget fighting Andreas's mutated form anytime soon, or the battle against the monster of the swamp. The DLC took things up a notch right off the bat, having us explore a zoo whose inhabitants were certainly a sight to behold even as they tore us to shreds. Lies of P hides very morbid tales behind its lore and encourages you to learn more about how the alchemists and those against them both went to extremes to achieve their goals. We're not to forget the results of Romeo's time with Arlecchino in the Overture anytime soon, and that tale alone is enough to earn this one a place on our list. Control Ultimate Edition. A supernatural realm existing outside of time and space, being at the center of altered world events that distorted reality should have been quite a giveaway in hindsight, but Control cleverly hid its horror behind a layer of sci-fi that could be quite the surprise when the game decides to raise your hackles.
You can't let this happen. 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 You stopped it. You... Oh, thank you. That was... horror.
There is some SCP-style terror on offer here, and you're soon going to be at the center of some very scary encounters in the role of the FBC's new director. Warped realities and whispered threats are among the many reasons that this one was a no-brainer for this list. Death Stranding 2. We have 2 words for you: beached things. These monstrosities, called BTs for short, are nothing short of terrifying when you encounter them. These lost souls are not just terrifying to fight, but bring the risk of a void out to every encounter with a living being. That's a sentiment that is right in the background with each one, and is scary enough with each of the BTs bringing unique attacks and horrendous appearances. Their frequency makes every step through Death Stranding feel like it's a trek through a world that continues to be haunted by the horrifying events that started it all. Returnal. Housemarque certainly did a great job of weaving in some brilliantly written psychological horror into Celine's time at Atropos. Not only are the alien monsters she encounters quite menacing on their own account, every discovery of the time loop she is in adds a layer of subtle tension to the rest of the experience, slowly peeling back the layers of a timeline that could plague her for the rest of her life. Returnal's very premise sets the stage for some truly frightening encounters and revelations, and is one that could stay with you long after you roll credits on it. Remnant 2. Irrespective of where you end up at the start of your adventure thanks to the procedurally generated experience, things get weird and scary quickly in this one. From the time loop in a burning house to tracking down the Night Weaver in the tormented asylum, this one can get quite hair-raising when it ups the ante in that direction. Remnant 2's themes of desolation and a sort of decay in the worlds it takes you to blend very well with the lore and discovery around some of its more imposing bosses, each of which boasts a design that could give even the most brave travelers nightmares. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition.
Another thief. Bodies mutilated. Who are you?
Folklore and monster contracts are a perfect recipe for some chilling stories and horrifying enemies in CD Projekt Red's excellent take on the novels. Several missions in the franchise's 3rd installment bring its many impressive monsters to life, partly through their designs, but also via the journey of following their tracks and witnessing what they're capable of firsthand. It's a sense of anticipation and dread that the game does so well to capture, especially if you manage to uncover the second DLC's deepest secrets, or perhaps uncover a side quest with some truly haunting consequences in the Skellige Isles. Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition. For a game's take on a post-apocalyptic shooter certainly packs in moments that can have you in sheer panic and trying to button mash your way out of a situation even without thinking about it. In a world that has many inhospitable areas and some very terrifying mutant creatures in those areas, this is a level of gas mask panic that's quite memorable indeed. We'd argue that it's a survival horror game in disguise, given how challenging it is to brave the world it presents to us. A Plague Tale: Innocence. Guiding your way through a take on 14th century settings with the Inquisition on your tail should be harrowing enough. But Asobo Studios certainly dialed things up by factoring in the Black Plague. But did they stop there? No, there was also a layer of supernatural entities and some horror elements thrown in, making this one a story that had us feeling both terror and awe at so many points. Hugo's journey alongside his sister and the erosion of his innocence as he battled his illness is a story that's right up there with some of the most haunting ones we've seen. It's made all the more haunting given his young age, the struggles of his sister to find a way around for both of them, and of course, the sense of melancholy that a land falling victim to the Black Plague can bring if done correctly. Bonus, Ghost of Yotei. While Atsu's role as an Onryo and the eventual terror she inspires in her enemies is great and all, Sucker Punch included a touch of the supernatural in this one. The mythic tale of the Spider Lily general involving his armor turns into a trek through an estate still haunted by his ghost. He brutalizes other bounty hunters ahead of you. He watches somberly as you attempt to navigate his puzzles, and his shadow passes ominously across the window as you enter his home. The eventual battle and the way it ends is as haunting as the journey through the character's life story.
Yuri! You finally returned! I've waited so long! I won't make you spar again. You can paint as much as you want.
I'm sorry. I'm not Yuri.
Wait. I see you've grown strong. Like a warrior.
I'm not Yuri. But I understand the loss you feel.
Show me what you've learned since you've been away. But be warned, I won't hold back.
His story is hauntingly poignant, involving a morbid take on father's love that leads to some very interesting conversations with the general himself later down the line. We'd say that uncovering the tale is as unsettling as the premise itself, a sentiment that isn't helped by the slightest by his estate's general sense of neglect and suffocating atmosphere. And well, that's a wrap on some of the scariest experiences we've had outside of the horror genre. We'd argue that some of these games more than deserve a place among the genre's finest though.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.